When we talk about statistics, what we're talking about there is, it's basically, we're dealing with data, and as you know, that kind of has almost taken over our lives a little bit, but we're just going to look at some of the basics of statistics. If you take a statistics class, you'll get to explore more of this stuff, but this is just kind of an introduction. And so, yeah, statistics, it's just the study of collecting data, organizing data, and then summarizing and making conclusions. That's what statistics is. It's all about data. Now, the side of statistics we'll more explore here are the descriptive statistics. Inferential statistics is where you get more into the making conclusions about data. Who's going to win the election or whatever that is, whatever the goal is there. But that's inferential statistics. We're mainly going to focus on this descriptive side of things, and that's just collecting data or organizing data and coming up with maybe a little bit of summarizing things about the data. And that's really what we'll focus on is that part of it. One other thing before I get into some of the statistics things, but I mentioned the idea of the polling for elections or something like that. The ultimate goal of any of those, hopefully, is what is known as a random sample. Because if I'm polling for an election, there's no way I'm going to be able to call everybody that's going to vote in that election, and that's what the elections are for. So you're just going to be getting a sample of the population at large. So the idea, though, is you want a random sample where you're not necessarily picking who you're sampling, you're just randomly choosing people or things that will go into that sample. So just wanted to mention that. It's not always, randomness is sometimes hard to do, but that's the ultimate goal, or the thing they should strive for here. All right, so let's talk about a few statistics, and they group these in different categories. What we'll talk about here today are the measures of central tendency. Measures of central tendency. So yeah, when we collect the data, we do want to come up usually with a way to summarize it, to tell us something about the data. And so the first one that we look at here are going to be the measures of central tendency. And what that means is, what we want to come up with is a value or values that represent kind of the middle ground, if you will. And I quote unquote that because we will talk about a couple of these. All right, so just to give you an example. All right, so let's say I had a class of 5 students, and their grades on the test were 85, 76, 45, 92, and 61. So I got 5 students. All right, so one way we look at statistics here is we summarize it by doing an average, right? So that's one measure of central tendency, is the average But in statistics, the average, though, is known as the mean. And so that's one way to represent data, is by getting the mean of the data. And like I said, it's just an average. Now, just some notation here for you. One thing is, the way the mean or the average is represented in statistics usually is X with a bar over it, X bar. Sometimes we just call it X bar. But that in statistics generally speaks to the mean or the average. Okay? And as we know, to get an average, what do? You add up all the values, so it's the sum of all the values. And then you divide by the total number, right? No, not telling you probably anything new there. However, again, just some notation. All right, so X bar, that means the average. So individually, each of these are X values. And so here's another sort of notational thing for you. Have you ever seen this this symbol before? It's kind of a funny looking E, but it's this Greek letter sigma. But whenever you see that, that just means sum of, you're taking a sum here. And so X is just the way to represent values. And so all that sigma X, all that means, it means the sum of the X values. Okay, so that's what that means. The total number in statistics, usually what they'll show for the total number of values, that'll be represented by the letter N. Okay, and so again, just some notations, just in case we come across it there. But the total number is usually represented by the letter N. Okay, but it just means the average. So what, for this particular one, what is X bar here? Well, it's just the sum of all these added together. And then divide by the total number, which there are 5. So in this case, we come up with the mean or the average to be top, I get to be 359. Divide that by 5, believe that? Okay, thank you. Divide that by 5, you got 71.8. Okay? All right. So that's one measure of what they call central tendency. It's a middle value. However, it is not, quote unquote, the actual middle value. What do we call that middle value? The value that's right in the middle. Median. That's the median, yeah. So the second type of measure here we're talking about is the median. And it is the middle value. Now you have to be careful, because if I've got a list such as 85, 76, 45, 92, and 61, I say the middle value, but that means it's the middle one when they're in order, right? If they're not in order, then the middle value is not going to be the median here. So you put them in order: 45, 61, 76, 85, 92. Yeah, if you've got them in order, then the median is the middle value. So here we've got 76. That's the one that's right in the middle there. Another way they put it, so 76 would be the median, which is slightly different than the average, but it is the middle value. Another way they put it is the median is the value where half of the values are less. Half of the values, control writing. Half of the values are less, and half are more. Or equal on both sides, right? Because, yeah, if you look at it, the median here, we've got half of them on this side, half of them on this side. Okay? So that's another way to look at it. Now, a couple of things do come up, of course, when you talk about things, when you talk about the median. Yeah, if you have, let's go with 6, 7, 12, 18, 19, and 23. Yeah, with that deal, so we don't have one value, so I can't say 12 because I got 2 here and 3 here. I can't say 18 because I've got 3 here and 2 there. So what you do is you average the 2 in the middle here for the median. So the median here in this case would be the average of those two. 30 divided by 2, so that's 15. It's halfway between the two is another way to put it. But so if you've got, so that happens when you have, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values. Whenever you have an even number of values, you're going to have to average the middle 2 to get the value in the middle. And if you have, duplicates, let's say 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 6. Yeah, you run into the thing here. So the median on this one, is it, which one's in the middle? 4 here, this 4? No, this 5. No, I thought I had 11. Yeah. 5 on each side. The 5's in the middle there. Now, again, you got a 5 here too, but 5 is the middle value. So, there are some issues like that. Sometimes you run into that, but 5 would still be considered a median on that. Okay? And then the third one, so mean, median, and the third one there is this measure of central tendency, and it's probably the one that's sometimes not even, maybe even close to the middle. It's called the mode. The mode is just the most frequently occurring value there is. And so going with this list again, you got 2 3s, 3 4s, 2 5s, 4 6s. So 6 here would be considered the mode. It's just the most frequently occurring value you have. And like I said, that one's the one that may not at all be linked to the middle because 6 is over here on the end. But it is what it is. It's the mode. One thing to say is you can't have 2 modes if you've got the same frequency occurring most with 2 different numbers. So you got 1 1 1, 2 2, and then 3 3 3. Just make it a pretty simple one here. All right, so the 1s and 3s occur most. So those would be considered bimodal. But that's as much as you got. 2 modes at most, okay? So, for example, back on the very first one I did, we did our, no, that wasn't the first one I did. One of the ones I did previously, all right. So that one, okay, so we did the median on that one's 15, we did get the mean, but they're all occurring one time, so there's no mode on that one. There's just not a one that occurs most frequently.
So do we just put like no mode?
No mode. It just does not have a mode. If it says mode, say no mode. That's exactly what you put. All right. So that's fairly straightforward calculations there.